Welcome to English Coach 3Ts. Today I'm going to tell you a story about why I had to go to the urgent care a few days ago, what happened, and how I'm doing now so that you can learn English in the best way possible with a real story. I have a ton of glare on my glasses today. This is glare, and I apologize for that. It might be these glasses are different from the others. I'm not sure why it's so much worse. If we haven't met before, my name is Tanya. I am the teacher here at English Coach 3Ts who has created She Speaks, our women's fluency program for women with an intermediate and above level who want to be more fluent without being bored and without using ways of the past that just frankly don't work. If you'd like more information about that, it's in the description below. But today I really want to talk about what happened last week. If you've been following me for a while, you know that over on Instagram, I took a few days off. Gratefully, I had content here already ready. I did take Wednesday. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure how that worked now that I think about it. I did post a new video about the 9 states that I have lived in, so I'll put that below. And teacher Tianna has helped me out quite a bit to get through this little rough patch. We say a rough patch, I'll put it in the chat here, a rough patch when we are having a difficult time, which is what happened to me. So last week I was home by myself. There was no one else here. Tianna was in San Diego and I was fixing dinner. And I knew that Tianna would be coming back later that evening. If you don't know Tianna, she's another teacher here at English Coach 3Ts, and she is also my daughter. And she was coming back with her big dog, Mochi. And I had a jar kind of like this, but it was empty, that had broken, that I had put in the recycling. But I knew that when Mochi came home, he's got a lot of energy. It might get knocked over. So I decided I better take out the recycling so that no one gets hurt. Famous last words. Famous last words is a phrase we use when we are indicating, I said that so no one would get hurt. And as you know, I got hurt. So what happened? Tianna and I have a bin for recycling outside our house. It's a big bin, and we keep our recycling in a smaller box in the house, and then we empty it outside. And when I was emptying this box of recycling, the broken jar hit the edge of the bin and fell onto my leg. I would have said my foot at the time because my foot immediately got covered with blood. I'm not sure what got cut in my leg, but it was bleeding profusely. Profusely means it was bleeding a lot. It was bleeding. It was bleeding profusely means it was bleeding a lot. So if you're a person who doesn't do well with blood, you would be very glad you weren't here. Surprisingly, to me, what happened next was surprising. But I want to say hello to everyone. I see lots of people saying hi. If you're here for the first time, let me know. You can see people are letting me know where they are from. Italy, Vietnam, where else? Paris. Where else do we have people from today? It's so good to see some of you who've been here before and some that are coming back to join us again. Be sure to put your questions in the chat while I'm telling you this story so that I can answer your questions here live or afterwards in the recording. Mexico, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City. Great to see you, Lourdes. Mr. Bob Newell, it's great to see you again. We typically have people here from all over the world, and I love it that we can come together and learn together. Japan, welcome, Rosebud. So what happened next is that, first of all, I don't remember it hurting at all. It wasn't hurting, but it was bleeding a lot. I typically wear Birkenstocks, and if you know, the edges of a Birkenstock shoe go up like this. So all the blood was going into the shoe. It was terrible. And when I would lean over to see how bad it was, the blood would spurt out. Oh, it was so gross. To spurt out. To spurt out means, normally blood comes down. If we get cut, let's see, I'm cut here, the blood would trickle down. Trickle down, meaning just a little blood going down like this. This was flowing down into my Birkenstocks, but when I would lean over, it would spurt out, like move out. Oh my God, it was so gross. And what's amazing is that in the past, I would have been completely freaked out. I wasn't freaked out at all. Some people have said to me, it's because you got an adrenaline drop. Adrenaline drop. I'm not sure that I'm spelling that word correctly. As you know, in the United States, in English in general, spelling is so weird, but I will check it. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So adrenaline drop, meaning my brain released a chemical so that it wouldn't hurt, so that I could take care of myself. So Espy, my dog, was with me outside. I left her outside. I left, of course, I didn't even think about the jar. I'm going to look at this picture I have to show you of the jar in case you didn't see it on the picture of the thumbnail. This is the jar. Afterwards, after everything was all over, we came home and Tianna took this picture of the jar that fell on my leg. And the cut was deep enough that it was bleeding profusely. Now, I walked into the house so that I could get back to my phone, knowing I would need help because I was alone. And I am not a medical person, so I didn't know how much blood you can lose before you faint or something like that. So I came into the house. I sat down on the floor and I tried right away to stop the bleeding. Gratefully, I have a niece who is in the medical field. I have two nieces in the medical field. This was a niece on my husband's side, my ex-husband's side. He's passed away now. And long time ago, she taught me how to stop the bleeding. And I just want to pass this on to you. You have to push a lot harder than you think. In fact, pushing hurt more than getting the leg cut. So you need to put a lot of pressure, Gratefully, I grabbed a clean paper towel and started putting pressure. The bleeding did not stop, bleeding all over the floor. I'm still okay at this point. And I call a friend. They were not available. This is a little bit late in the evening for my friends. Most people I know go to bed maybe an hour or two after this time in the evening. So I'm looking for someone who I know will be awake longer because I know it's going to take a while to deal with this. I ended up calling a friend who was able to come over. But first I asked her, how are you with blood? How are you with blood? This means, do you get upset or faint, or are you queasy around blood? Queasy. Oh, queasy. Do you get queasy around blood? I don't know how to spell queasy. You know these words that you never write? Are you queasy around blood? I'll look for the spelling. By the way, yes, I am a native speaker. Yes, I am an English teacher. These are words we probably don't write very often, and so I don't know how to spell some of these words. So don't feel bad if you don't know how to spell words I can't even find queasy in the dictionary. Queasy, queasy. Do you have any guesses on how you would spell this? Okay, so I will look that word up and put it in the recording. If you're queasy, you're like, oh, oh, it makes you feel faint, or maybe like you're going to throw up, or you just can't be around blood. You get queasy around blood, or it's just something you can't do. She said she could do it, so she came over. And long story short, because there was a lot that went on there, we decided that she would take me to, somebody looked it up. Queasy, 3 people looked it up. Juan, Tessa, Beatrice, thank you so much. Queasy. I'm so grateful that you looked that up for me. So I she took me to the fire station. If you are aware, I live in Southern California in the mountains at about 6,000 feet, and there's no emergency room, no urgent care here. So she took me to the fire station. They cleaned out the wound and said it was a good idea to go to urgent care or the emergency room. So in the United States, you may have seen me talk about this in another video. I will link it below. We have the emergency room that you've probably heard of, but we also have what is called urgent care. It is very similar to the emergency room. They're typically not at the hospital. You can't get all of the care at urgent care. So if you have a true emergency, you are dying, something like that, go to the emergency room. But if you have something that they can take care of, it's not as much of an emergency, but it does need to be taken care of before the next day, you can go to urgent care. And there are a lot more urgent cares. They're typically a little less expensive, even with your insurance. And sometimes it is faster because there are so many of them. I was very fortunate because we drove off the mountain and all of the urgent cares closest to us, which would be 35, 40 minutes away, were closed. So why is this fortunate? Because we ended up having to drive to another urgent care, which was about an hour and 10 minutes, hour 20 minutes from my house. So it was a long ways, but it was an excellent urgent care. You may have guessed by now that the bleeding, I was able to stop the bleeding because of my niece who taught me how hard you have to put pressure on the wound. Does this make you think of a time when you had an accident like this? It maybe was something different, or maybe someone else. Can you relate to this? This is a story. This is something I ask a lot. Can you relate to this? Because if you can relate to this in any way, you can think of a time that something similar happened to you, or you can think of what your urgent care or your emergency room is like. Even if you had a bad experience, I had a good experience. If you can relate to this, it's going to help you to improve your English. Why? Because your brain will start to categorize this as something important. So try to think of someone in your life, maybe it's yourself, someone else, something similar that happened. It doesn't have to be that you got cut by a glass. It could have been something different but similar. Tell me about that in the comments over here or below. So I get to the emergency room, pardon me, the urgent care. Of course, it does take a while, but I was very fortunate because this I keep saying emergency room, urgent care had excellent staff. The doctor was fabulous. The front desk people were fabulous and patient. even though they were having no fun. There were people in there that were not being appropriate. They were not being polite. The sheriff had to come while I was there to take someone who ended up leaving. It was a lot of stuff going on. And still, the staff remained calm, professional, and very polite, kind, and helpful. I really appreciated this because even though I was able to stay calm, it's helpful when people around you are calm if you have an emergency, right? Um, the doctor was very appropriate with his staff, which sometimes, I don't know about your country, but here, sometimes the doctor will act like they are better than everyone else. Not my cup of tea. In other words, I don't care for that. I don't like that. This doctor treated everyone from me to the nurse, to the medical assistant, to the x-ray tech as if they were all on the same level working as a team. I think this is huge. This makes everything run more smoothly. This makes it easier for he or she, him or her to do their job more effectively because everybody respects them. They respect the people, they respect them. Respect is a two-way street. This is the thing we say. We could say something else is a two-way street. Kindness is a two-way street. Um, Helpfulness is a two-way street. I would say for sure respect is a two-way street. In other words, I give it to you, you give it to me. It's not just you need to respect me. What can you think of that is also a two-way street? Oh, Mr. Bob Newell broke my L1 and L2. Oh my gosh, you didn't see the doctor for 3 weeks. Regnum, welcome in the Army and studied tactical medicine. Interesting. There's no need to be afraid of blood. I totally get that. Interestingly, though, sometimes our body reacts. For me, I have other things that is true of, but in this situation, the blood didn't bother me. I'm very grateful. So the doctor ended up doing 9 stitches on my wound. Now, I'll tell you, the wound was not that long. It was deep and icky. Icky is something we say when we mean yuck. Yuck is another word for this. Gross. You know, other people might not have thought that, but for me, it was ugh. Have you ever had stitches? This is a totally new experience for me. It did not hurt to get the stitches. It was a little uncomfortable. The lidocaine injection they gave me, it was painful, not for very long, but I'm grateful that they could do that because it made it so that the stitches didn't hurt at all. Nasty, yes, icky, yucky, nasty, gross, all of that. You're right, Mr. Bob Newell, exactly. Okay, Claudia asks, how much dread would you have felt? Well, I can tell you, I dreaded going to the urgent care because typically it's not a good experience. Gratefully, my experience was pretty good. The end of this story is that Tianna met me at the urgent care and was able to bring me back. We didn't get back here to our home until after 2 a.m., which is very late for me. That's part of the reason I needed to take the next day off. But also, it's really important to take care of yourself and get the rest that your body needs so that it can recover. This has been a long time lesson for me. I may talk about that another time in another story, but I want to know if you have any other questions. I see a couple of questions already that I will answer. Mr. Bob Newell asked, was it expensive? So here's the thing. I have insurance. It's not the best insurance in the world, but I do have insurance. And it only cost me a $15 copay. Copay is meaning you pay a little and your insurance pays the rest. Okay, so, but that isn't always the way it goes. I paid $15 twice because I had to go back down to have my stitches looked at 2 or 3 days later. So no, that wasn't expensive. Now, if my insurance decides you did not need an X-ray, for instance, which I did need an X-ray, they had to X-ray to look and see if there was any glass in the wound. But if the insurance decides you didn't need that, or your insurance only covers a part of that, you may have to pay more later. I could look into that and make a bunch of phone calls and all that kind of stuff. That would take a lot of time. I won't be spending that time because time is money. What we do with our time costs us if we can't go to work, etc. So I won't be doing that. I will wait to see, and then I will deal with it at that time. That's a really great question, because if I had not had insurance, yes, it would have been very expensive, less expensive than going to the emergency room. All right, I do see a few comments here. Some people relating. This is good. When Kalam says, when my daughter was 5, she went to bed. She had a photo with a glass and no frame on the head of her bed. Oh, the photo fell down onto her nose and crept towards her eye. We had to go immediately to the ER. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope everything was okay. How did that turn out? And Tessa said, I had an accident with a horse hoof. A horse hoof is the foot of a horse. These are great examples, by the way, if you want to read them over here. Great examples for you to read, but also Tessa and Colum are practicing their English in one of the best ways you can. I was kicked on the back of my head. It was bleeding profoundly, and I had to get some stitches. Oh, in the end, I was lucky. It could have been much worse. That's what I was going to say as well, Tessa. It could have been much worse for me in many different aspects. Regnum V says, never panic. When you panic, fear takes over your mind. I totally agree. And panic is contagious. I totally agree. Other people start to panic too. You need to stay calm and reassure the injured person. I totally agree. Gratefully, I remain calm. After having children, I learned that even if I am hurt, I can remain calm, because even if you are the injured person and you have children around, if you panic, the children may panic even if they aren't hurt. And maybe not just children, it could be other people as well. Colum says, yes, let's see. Yes, it was all okay. The doctor in the ER was a surgeon and made good work and did good work. I'm so grateful to hear this. Rosebud Sound, I found you use stitch, not saw for the treatment. Yes, a saw is like this. This is a saw. I got stitches in my leg, and I'll get the stitches out hopefully this Friday. That's my hope. I'll let you know. If you follow me on Instagram, you will for sure find out about it. I will try to get some information here in my community pages if you see me here on YouTube. If this is something that helps you to have conversation like this, to be able to participate, to be able to comment and learn English, I hope that you will share this with a friend who's also learning English. And I really appreciate all of you. If you want to continue learning English, there are already links to videos below. And when this goes into the recording, I will put another video here so that you can continue learning in the best way possible. Thank you so much. I love having the opportunity to get to know you a little bit more here, and I'll see you soon.